Hey, it's Max here. Hope everyone's doing great this week. I wanted to cover a few notable stories and news updates from the week of October 10th. Lots going on, just a few weeks out from the election, and the stakes couldn't be higher, so to speak. So we'll jump right in here, and I want to cover the Vatican first. Um, I believe last week, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was in Rome talking with officials, trying to get the Vatican and voicing our concern of the Vatican renewing a secret deal that they made with China from back in 2018. And he was in Rome highlighting the plight of persecuted religious groups in China and called on the Holy See to reconsider renewing a deal with Beijing. Pompeo said, "Nowhere is religious freedom under assault more than it is inside of China today, nor, of course, have Catholics been spared this wave of repression." The Secretary of State's remarks came as the Vatican and China are negotiating the renewal of a controversial 2018 agreement on the nomination of bishops. The terms of that deal have never been publicly disclosed, but it's a trend that we're seeing out of the Vatican to kind of cozy up with communist China in certain ways. I think a lot of that has to do with all the financial incentives that stood or stand to be gained from that relationship. But let's see here. Bob Fu, he's the founder of China Aid, which helps persecuted groups and rights activists in China. He said in the same article, the main concern of the secret deal is whether the church can be a true church in both its biblical teachings and its leadership, independent from the Chinese Communist Party's control and manipulation. Pompeo tweeted out, 2 years ago, the Holy See reached an agreement with the Chinese Communist Party, hoping to help China's Catholics. Yet the CCP's abuse of the faithful has only gotten worse. The Vatican endangers its moral authority should it renew its deal. How hypocritical would it be for the Vatican to renew a deal with Communist China, who is the worst human rights abuser on the face of the earth on massive scales that we don't even begin to really realize what they do to their own citizens and people who aren't, loyal to, the Communist Party. So, it's concerning, and Pompeo's right to call out the Vatican to try and get the Vatican to distance itself from China. But there is a higher goal that's at play here by the Chinese Communist Party, and the globalist left that the Chinese Communist Party is such an integral part of. And to sum it all up, Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano, he's been an outspoken critic of the trend that we're seeing from the Vatican to wade into the political waters and move left politically and kind of cozy up to totalitarian dictatorships like China. He's rightfully concerned. He's been an outspoken critic, and he kind of sums up what the end game is here from China. He says the important thing is to transform the Catholic Church into the spiritual arm of the New World Order, so as to have an imprimatur from the highest moral authority in the world. So there are devious aims here that China is employing against the Vatican, and they want, again, the Vatican to kind of be their stamp of approval as the highest moral authority in the world. And that's kind of the reasoning for the alliance there between the two. But it seems that the Vatican has become more of a business. It's become increasingly political, and it's becoming more and more controlled by nefarious forces. And we'll see what happens, but definitely concerning, something to keep an eye on. Moving forward here, we have more declassification. Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe on Tuesday declassified documents that revealed former CIA Director John Brennan briefed President Obama on Hillary Clinton's purported plan to tie then-candidate Donald Trump to Russia, a means of distracting the public from her private email server scandal ahead of the 2016 election. So he classified Brennan's handwritten notes that were taken after he briefed Obama on the intel that the CIA received, and they referred the matter to the FBI for potential investigative action. At minimum, the CIA and the Obama administration sat on that investigation, ignored all the evidence and the plot from Hillary Clinton to kind of set up and frame Donald Trump as being in a collusive relationship with Russia. We know that was a complete lie, but they set him up and they tried to impeach him for it. So it is quite literally an overthrow attempt by the deep state players in the intelligence community and by former state officials. So that's slowly beginning to come out. We're seeing a lot of evidence start to be declassified. That's inescapable. You can't argue against it. This was definitely a political hit job. It's criminal, very serious criminal activity that carries very serious penalties. So we should all research what the penalties are for things like treason and sedition and conspiracy to overthrow government. Very serious stuff. And Hillary Clinton and former President Obama and the CIA heads, FBI heads, they were all in on it along with the media. It was a giant collaborative effort to oust the President of the United States. Before he was elected president, to try and prevent his presidency, and then after he was elected, to try and remove him from office. The greatest political crime of the century. All that was followed up by Donald Trump announcing or authorizing declassification of all documents related to the fake Russia collusion narrative and the Clinton email probe. So he authorized complete declassification, but we're not going to see that declassification right away. It goes through a very involved process, and hopefully we get to see that in its unredacted form. I think full transparency is the only way to begin to restore trust in these institutions that have been corrupted over decades. But Trump's doing all he can, but we need people to follow suit, and we'll see what happens. I know they have a plan in place, but big news there. And then there were 24 to 25 Republicans who tested positive of coronavirus, the president being one of them at the debate a couple Tuesdays ago, and he quickly recovered, thankfully. They gave him some new cutting-edge treatment and therapeutics that really had him back on his feet in a matter of hours, he said. But a lot of speculation surrounding the origin of this outbreak, whether it was an attack on the president by someone, or whether it was an attack but the president knew about it and he let himself be infected, or whether it was total coincidence and it was caused by people not being socially distant or whatnot. But a lot of speculation. I don't want to go in too much depth here, but that was big news. And thankfully, everyone seems like they're recovering. Very mild cases. But interesting, you don't see any Democrats coming down with the virus either from that event. So very interesting. It's all Republicans, but no Democrats, at least that we know of. So, and next we have an announcement by Facebook and Instagram that they are banning QAnon-related accounts from their platform. They said that they're going to be removing Facebook pages, groups, and Instagram accounts for representing QAnon. We're starting to enforce this updated policy today, and we'll be removing content accordingly. Our dangerous organizations operations team will continue to enforce this policy and proactively detect content for removal instead of relying on user reports. A Facebook spokesperson told NBC the company believed it needs to limit the ability of QAnon and militarized social movements to operate and organize on our platform. Facebook is not the only tech giant acting against QAnon accounts. In July, Twitter banned 7,000 accounts and limited 150 others for QAnon posts. So we see active censorship and canceling and banning of Q-related accounts and information on social media. And then in the news media, in the press, we just see constant smearing and distortions and kind of hit pieces on Q. So it's a very concerted effort by big tech giants and media giants to stifle this information from getting out, which is really interesting, but to be expected. But QAnon, in short, if you're not aware, he's an alleged intelligence insider that works for military intelligence. He works very close to the president. That's been dropping information on the internet for the past almost 4 years. They have amassed a really large following. I've been observing Q for over 3 years now. Really interesting stuff. But they're not violent. They're not militant. They explicitly say we are keyboard warriors. We're a digital army. We fight in the realm of ideas and information, not by force. So if you look at their own statements and their own kind of mission statement, that's what they say. So it's no surprise that big tech, who is allied with the DNC, who is controlled by the globalist left and other foreign interests, they want to stifle this information, not because they're violent militants, but because they're on the cutting edge of open source research into entrenched and widespread government and corporate corruption, of which big tech themselves and the media themselves are guilty of. So they want to prevent this information of getting out and prevent a public awakening to their crimes, and this is one way to do it, to make the excuse that they're a violent militant group, yada yada yada, and they're just believing crazy conspiracy theories and stuff. But it's more of an information war to damage the president and damage his supporters as well, to try and again stifle communication to the public. The anons, the researchers, they've been months ahead of the news cycle, years ahead of the news cycle. There have been some amazing predictions that have come to pass, some amazing stories that have broken as a result of a lot of this research, and they pose a significant threat to the system that's in place. And that's the real reason that we're seeing all this censorship. But it's just going to get worse leading up to the election. Lastly here, we have 13 people charged in an alleged plot to kidnap the Michigan governor. This was just broke yesterday night and this morning. But the media's coming out, and they're trying to, and the Dems are coming out, they're trying to say that this is a white supremacist militia group that are Trump supporters, and that's clearly not the case. As information is rolling out on the backgrounds and the ideologies of these people who are guilty of this overthrow, which was terrible, by the way. I'm glad they got caught. That's not the way to enact change at all. But I'm glad the FBI got these guys, and they're now going to be facing a long, long time in prison. But the media spin on this is what is pretty frustrating. But it should, it's to be expected at this point. But they want to make them out to be white supremacists, Trump supporter militias. Not the case. We're already seeing that these guys are anarchists at heart. One video of this gentleman, Brandon Caserta, speaks on the camera. In a YouTube video, he has an anarchist flag behind him. He's talking about, he's anti-law enforcement, anti-government. So these people are nothing but anarchists. They're not anything to do with, to share with conservative values at all. But they're insurrectionists at heart. But again, the media is trying to spin this to damage Trump and to damage conservatives and things like that. But I think the truth is going to come to light pretty quickly there. But keep an eye on that. Glad those guys were rounded up by the FBI, and I'm glad that the governor of Michigan, though how terrible of a governor she is, that she is safe, and they didn't get away with this plot. But that's all I got this week. Hope you guys have a great weekend. God bless you, and we'll talk soon.